What's absolutely cruel about the end of this episode and the titling of next episode is how apparently we have heroic death as the tagline for episode 20 of season 4. And even if that's related to the familia of Ryuu who does end up dying, it doesn't change the fact that you almost kill our girl off. She literally had a heroic send-off herself, separating herself from Belle, saying, "Go on without me, I've taught you all I know," to have Belle in the last moment come back saying, "Even the long way can't keep me from saving you. I'd rather die protecting you than live and knowing that you gave your life to protect me." And to just know that we still have a few episodes left of potential, does a character live, does a character die, and as I keep saying, what makes this season of DanMachi so exhilarating is that even if they all do make it out alive, the fact that you're making us this worried about who will make it, their victory will feel all the more earned if they do end up all surviving. But right now, things are not looking good. Now, I do have a full live reaction to today's insane episode available on my Patreon, so if you want to see my full uncut thoughts to today's mind-blowing, gore-fest, holy are they going to live episode, head on over there and consider supporting, because yeah, this has been an absolute roller coaster. I mean, all throughout watching, ever since they basically got to the area where it kind of looked like the walls were a little gray, it was a little white, there wasn't a lot of color in the environment. Ever since then, it kind of felt like Ryuu was moments away from saying, "I'll keep going on, but if there's ever a point where one of us has to survive, you're going to be the person to be that." And when you get inside the Coliseum, and it's basically a monster spawner, if you kill every skeleton you see, there's going to be more skeletons that will pop up. Ultimately, this is a room. For some reason, there is something that needed an unlimited supply of creatures that it could kill, and if that doesn't scare you and say that is one of the worst bosses they'll probably ever face in the dungeon, I don't know what will. But I like seeing how they intelligently avoided most conflict until they absolutely couldn't anymore. The idea of like basically cloaking yourself with the same cloak that the sheep uses and then covering yourself in a heart monstrosity of a goo that they end up making themselves smell like the creature. They basically avoid all the creatures that are more or less fighting each other, because it kind of feels like the creatures that are fighting, whether skeletons or ogres or these bird-like dragon creatures, right? They're basically going after what they perceive as strong creatures. Going up against the demonic sheep that have been causing us a ruckus, while yes, they can be dangerous, I think there's obviously more dangerous opponents that these very physically fit monsters are going after. But the idea of a skeleton just grabbing your ankle and then it all kind of making hell breaks loose, I love how as soon as the cloak's gone, everyone turns their attention to the adventurers, recognizing that's the strongest prey, so that's who we need to go up against. And it was crazy to see how they were trying to survive. They had like 3 of those fire rocks left, meaning they had 3 good explosions, but ultimately you knew by the end of this episode they were either going to be all out or they'd be very close to it. And to see ultimately what happened in the Coliseum, it wasn't even like a big boss popped up, which I thought that was going to be the big thing in this episode. They'd more or less get to the end, and then a big dragon, a big creature would pop up, and then ultimately that's how the cliffhanger would go. And instead, they made us this worried without even showing us the thing that probably fights in there, and is probably more dangerous than everything we just saw combined. Instead, they literally just showed us these characters who have barely any armor plating, have barely any energy, and are just, they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth. And the fact that we go the long way, we try so hard, we're almost at the exit, and ultimately all Ryuu can do is the one thing she thinks to keep Belle safe. She pushes him away and more or less cuts off her access to an exit. I thought maybe what they're going to try to do was that the intelligent monsters would be her reinforcements, and maybe that's how. Didn't even cross my mind that Belle, if he really put his mind to it, could go the long way, which is obviously a more dangerous way, but the fact that he refused to go down, this is what makes him such an incredible protagonist. He is a hero through and through. A person like him would rather die protecting someone he cares about than survive because they gave their life for him, right? No. Like, Belle's the type of person, whether it's a fool's goal or a fool's hope, right? Ultimately, he would rather risk it all. And I think something that this season's been trying to hammer into us, especially with the past handful of episodes, every episode kicks back as a flashback to her familia and the idea of what would happen if she met someone who was truly that insane, and ultimately that would be a true hero. And that's exactly what Belle is. Belle is someone who, while maybe in the earlier stages, prior to him really getting accustomed to this lifestyle, maybe you could look at him as being like he had that fool's wish. But at this point, I mean, yes, no one's invincible and everyone eventually reaches their end. But the fact that for this story, it's all about really seeing him show people a different way of adventuring and showing them that he's not going to be like other people who would say, you know what, you gave your life protecting me, I'll remember you. No, Bell would rather get his head cut off than see something like that happen. I think that's what makes it so great, because right now it feels like the direction they're really trying to go is that they're trying to make it feel like death flags are above every character. And when these characters eventually overcome those death flags, the victory is going to be unlike anything they've ever experienced. But most importantly, it feels like they're trying to give Ryuu, this character who long gave up on Bell's mindset of saying there is that true hero and everyone can be saved. It's almost like trying to give her this moment where she recognizes, maybe I gave up too soon, and maybe this boy is actually going to be the one to change my mindset. So when I get out of here, honestly, I don't go back to the way I once was. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to pull with this. Though I have to say, one of the best performances that I think season 4 has delivered vocally is, without a doubt, Bell. He did it 2 times in this episode. When he said firebolt, it was around, I'd say like the first third of the episode and then around the last third of the episode when he does his firebolt. The way it felt like he went to the pits of his stomach and he growled, like he just pulled out the fire and then he said the bolt, and it was insane. That was an insanely well-directed voice scene, which could have just been him being like, you know, firebolt, he's a little excited, but no, it felt like he had no energy. He had almost no passion, but he knew if he didn't give it his all and make that firebolt count, that everyone would die here. And every time he did it this episode, might have only been 2 times, but each time felt more just raw and visceral than the last, and I was impressed with his vocal performance. The animation, nothing to scoff at either. They're continuing to have fun. I mean, there's this one moment where something's about to jump him and he just kind of like side swipes it with his knife. A lot of cool moments for sure, but I mean, for an episode that kicks off with them looking at a rickety bridge, I mean, there's literally no support in the middle. It was literally like at one moment you're walking and you just see there's no support. At any moment, I felt like the rocks were going to give in, and you saw the bodies of all the adventurers who were just spiked on skeletons because they've been so long. But it was just a really cool episode. There was tactics, there was great action, there was stakes, and even though Rip Ryuu hasn't happened just yet, they're still making us worry because it just doesn't look good. What fights in there? What is the reason that you have an unlimited monster spawner? I don't know. All I know is that in better circumstances, it would be a pretty great farming method. You have unlimited monsters. If you were properly healthed up, potioned up, and all that, you could kill a lot of those creatures, gather some items, and be on your merry way. Unfortunately, that's not where we're at in DanMachi right now, and I don't know where we go from here. But I mean, every time I think I know what to expect, or I'm like, okay, this is going to be the moment they really rip my heart out, they managed to pull on by. I mean, Bell is one hell of a character that he's managed to survive this long, especially with the cards stacked against him, but we'll see where it goes. Let me know what you thought though down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload on the channel, and of course, as I mentioned, I have that full live reaction available on my Patreon. And while you're there, you can also get yourself a video shoutout. So today, we have Jonas Pierre, Flippy Napkins, Matthew, Ezebin, Davelin, and Edre Zahari. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.